everyone, and welcome to Shell Point Today for Thursday, September 24th. I'm Dan Filgrain. On today's show, Melody Desilets takes us down to the model train room as they are almost ready to open for tours again. Finally, we'll get you in the mood for the Trinkets and Treasures sale with a little humor. But first, we'd like to remind you of the opportunity to take part this Saturday in a LifeQuest discussion group. Amanda Addison, our resident and family services counselor, will share opportunities for ongoing learning that are available as part of the educational dimension of LifeQuest. The meeting will be held in the Grand Cypress Room of the Woodlands at 10 a.m. And don't forget that this Friday is the Trinkets and Treasures sale in the Social Center. It's from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. There you can find great deals on an incredible assortment of unique, previously used items. We promoted the table sign-up for the sale earlier this month, and we thought you might enjoy seeing it again.
Hey, Katelyn.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. What you doing?
I'm
It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, setting up for Trinkets and Treasures.
Oh, well, you know Trinkets and Treasures isn't until the end of September.
Well, nothing like an early start.
Oh, well, that's true. Well, let's look at some of your stuff you got here.
I got some great stuff.
Oh, I like this.
Yeah.
Okay, great glasses. Oh, some half-eaten mints.
Yeah, I don't like that flavor.
Oh, I don't know if you
Gives me
can
bad
sell
breath.
this. They're half-eaten. That's a little...
No, these haven't been eaten though. Just the ones that are
Well,
not in there.
let's put that aside. Let's see what else you have.
I've got some
let's see what
bookshelves. Look at my guitar.
Oh, man, can you play it?
Yeah, a little bit. It's been a while.
Oh. Can we talk about this?
What, the paint?
Yeah.
Those are some great colors. You should see my bedroom.
Oh.
I used them all.
Are these half used?
Yeah,
Oh.
but they're good colors. You know how much you would have to pay for that in the store?
I agree. This is a beautiful color, but you can't sell this.
Why not?
Well, it's half used and it's hazardous.
Man.
So let's take that away. Let's see what else you got. Okay.
Okay.
What's that?
It's a film projector.
No. That.
The hairspray?
Yeah.
It's some great stuff too.
Oh. You can't sell that.
Why not? It's barely used.
Oh, gently used items don't mean half-used cans of hairspray. I'm sorry. You have some great stuff here, though. Let's go over some details. Trinkets and Treasures is September 25th, and you can sell your gently used items. Everything you have here is beautiful, and I love everything you have except for your paint, your half-eaten mints, and your hairspray. So, you think you got it?
Yeah, so it can't be consumable or already consumed.
No.
Or hazardous.
You got it.
Can't be chemicals.
No.
All right.
I think you got it.
Okay.
Right? So
Yeah.
And one other thing. Employees can't sell at the Trinkets and Treasures sale. So don't forget to mark your calendars for the Trinkets and Treasures sale happening September 25th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Sign-ups begin September 1st. It is a $5 table fee if you'd like to sell your items. Don't forget, and we'll see you there.
Looking ahead, it's not too early to think about sending out those Christmas cards. Consider personalizing them with your own photo. The photo studio in the Island Tunnel has created a wonderful backdrop, and it's now ready for residents and employees to sit or stand for their customized portrait, captured by resident photographers. Half-hour portrait sessions are now being scheduled on Fridays and Saturdays through November 20th. For more information, call 433-7900. Down in the Island Tunnel lies a piece of living history, an animated exhibit that each year goes through enhancements and expansion. I'm speaking of the model train room exhibit that is laid out in the shape of the state of Florida. Visitors to Shell Point come from all over to see this fascinating work of art. Next month, the train room reopens for tours, and Melody Desilets got a sneak peek at what the visitors will see beginning October 5th.
Hi, Shell Point. I'm Melody Desilets, Volunteer Coordinator, and I am here at the Gulf Coast Model Railroad train layout. I never can imagine where my job will take me, but here I am. And I'm here today because we have some exciting new changes that have occurred during the summer by some very passionate volunteers. The first being, if you take a look behind me, we have Magic Kingdom Cinderella's Castle that was hand painted by a resident, and we'll get into a little bit more detail in a few minutes. And we also have the Burma Shave sign right behind me that lights up and flashes. And then over there we have some new power lines as well. So these great changes have been put together by resident volunteers. Now if you look, this is a very tight space, but these are very tiny miniature layouts. All the detail has been hand painted by resident volunteers. As you can see, the orange grove in front of me, each orange was hand painted. So we are so appreciative of all the hard work that our residents have done, and I am seeing a new perspective like I've never seen before. So join us on this adventure that we're going to travel together. Now, these changes have been going on since 1971, and each summer we have new updates. So come along on this adventure with me. Now I am joined by Judy Owen. She's a docent here in the Gulf Coast Model Railroad train room, and she was the resident that hand-painted Cinderella's Castle. Judy, thank you so much for joining me today.
That's fine. Happy to be here.
Great. Now, what inspired you to paint this castle?
Well, I started as a docent here a year ago, and I noticed that the Cinderella's Castle looked to me like perhaps it had been done back in 1971. It was starting to show its age and had been just a magazine cutout that had been wrapped around a piece of cardboard. And I said at the time, I really think that the Magic Kingdom could use an update. Would it be all right if I went ahead and made a new Cinderella's Castle? And of course the answer was yes. So then I drew a design, but I decided we didn't want to use cardboard. We wanted to use something that was going to last a few more years. So I went to my friend Linda Frieda Bach, and Linda actually is the only female that is working in the wood shop today. And I asked Linda if she would do the jigsaw cutout if I drew a plan, and she did that. So Linda produced it, cut it out, and I hand painted it.
Excellent. Now, I see you use a lot of detail and a lot of color. What kind of paints did you use on this castle?
I used acrylic paint. It's the easiest thing to work with and long-lasting and durable and very nice to work with.
And it is three-dimensional with lights behind. It almost feels like we are at Magic Kingdom. And I see that there's the Cinderella Princess and Prince Charming, which I understand you drew and you painted by hand, correct?
That's correct.
Well, that is just fantastic. Now, how long did this take you to paint?
Oh, probably a day. Not long.
Unbelievable. The artists and the talent that we have here at Shell Point. A day for that beautiful addition to the train room layout. I am now joined by Marilyn Horvath from Eagles Preserve, and she was asked by our PR guru, Phyllis Ingalls, also from Eagles Preserve, to write up a history of the train room. Marilyn, thank you for joining me. Now, Phyllis came knocking at your door because she knew you were a dynamic writer, correct?
I'd like to think she thought I could do it.
Yeah, so she asked you to write up a history of the train room that started in 1971. Right. What did you find by writing up the history?
Well, first of all, I really knew none of the background. And as soon as you said to me, write a history of the train room, history. Well, I had to know more about the history. So the first part of my research, I went to find out about the Florida Railroad, or its history in Florida and found out that Florida's growth was mainly because of the railroad. So I started it all the way back in 1830. Way up in the northern part of Florida, the gauges of the tracks weren't the same, they couldn't interconnect, but one thing led to the other, and all of a sudden the railroad became a way that Florida got its identity. And so on the East Coast, you've got the guru of Henry Flagler. West Coast is Henry Plant, the two Henrys. And with their entrepreneur genius and their personal wealth, they just started creating the state of Florida. And it was done through the railroad. Now, what has happened here, and what's really, I think, is so phenomenal, and I give Shell Point so much credit for this, is that what they've done is they've taken an era, the 50s and 60s, and it is what you see here, all the detail, is very true to that era. And what they've made into this is a living piece of history. Because the history of the railroad is synonymous with the history of Florida. And they have made this a piece of living history. And it's wonderful. And once I got going, I thought, wow, I can't stop. And I took it up to, from the 1830s, I took it all the way up through, and of course, with all of this, I took it up through to 1981. And then I figure anybody who wants to take the modern history can pick it up from there and move it forward. But it is a wonderful piece of history, and you see that on the faces of people when they come in. And building to scale is called Senecing. That's a little term I learned, and it's probably one of the toughest things that they have to do. That is really, really hard. And again, they've kept it real to its decade of the 50s and 60s. They've just kept it so real. It's wonderful.
I love how you described it as a living layout.
And that's Shell Point. Shell Point has really fostered that because it's a living exhibit of a time gone by. It's wonderful. Piece of living history.
Well, it is so interesting being of the younger generation to see this and wonder what this was actually like in that era, but also to appreciate something that I never got to experience. So as you had said, young and the more mature generation can appreciate this immense amount of work, hand painting and keeping it to scale. Absolutely. So Marilyn, we appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
What have you found with volunteering in the train room? Have you enjoyed it?
Oh no, can't you tell? Oh no, it has been wonderful. I bring everybody here. I call up all my friends and I say, you just gotta come and bring your families. When your families are visiting, you come to the train room. It is something that everybody loves. How could you not?
Well, that's a great tie-in to when our new season is beginning. It's starting October 5th, and it goes through April 2016. The train room is open Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays throughout that season from 1:30 to 3:30. So as Marilyn had said, come out and see this living history. Thank you again so much to Judy Owen for her expertise with hand painting the castle, and for all those other dynamic volunteers who have worked so hard this summer to bring you this masterpiece. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you in the train room.
And now let's take a look at today's happenings, Academy News, menus, and Village Church Connections.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Happening segment of Shell Point TV. I'm Bev Chandler, this is Katelyn Van Scoy, and we're going to tell you what we offer for activities here today at Shell Point. At 7:15, we start with the Health Connections class, Bend, Breathe, and Balance. That's in the Health Club on the island. Then we have the Men's Golf Association down at the Golf Club at 8 o'clock. Also at 8 o'clock, we have the Round Robin Doubles Tennis at the Woodlands Tennis Courts. The Paddlers Club will be meeting at the Kayak Storage and taking off for their weekly trip at 8:30. And then Samba, the card game, will be in the Sable Room of the Woodlands at 9 o'clock. At 9:15, shuffleboard will be at the shuffleboard courts. 9:30, we have current events being discussed in the game room of the Woodlands. 9:30, we have ladies match play tennis at the Woodlands tennis courts. And introduction to line dancing will be in the health club at 9:45. We have another Health Connections class at 10 o'clock. Why would I benefit from a personal trainer? That's in the Grand Cypress room at the Woodlands. You do need to sign up for that. And we have basic line dancing in the health club at 10:15. Also at 10:15, the poetry group will be in the art studio on the island. The Suzy Q heads out at 10:45 to Fathoms and Through the Locks. You do need to sign up for those Suzy Q trips. Here's Katelyn to tell you the afternoon activities.
Thank you, Bev. We start the afternoon off with a trip to Wisteria Tea Room. Pickups begin on the island at 12:30, 12:40 Woodlands, and 12:50 Eagles Preserve and Estuary. You do need to sign up for that exciting trip. At 12:45, Mahjong will be played in the Library Lounge. 2 o'clock is a time for the Stamp Ministry to be in the Stamp Room down in the Island Tunnel. And then we move to 2:45 for a Health Connections class, Balance and Mobility Training Level 2. That'll be in the Health Club, and that one's currently full. The seamstress will be here for her weekly service at 4 o'clock, and she'll be in the Osprey Room. And then we have Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in the Sable Room at the Woodlands at 4:30. At 6:30, we have Pinochle being played in the Library Lounge. And then we round out our day with 7 o'clock Trailblazers Bible Study in the game room at the Woodlands. Well, we hope you have a fabulous day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Terry Kolath with your Academy information for Thursday. We have two classes continuing today. At 9:15, Tips for More Organized Email Messaging continues in the Technology Teaching Center on the island, and Writing with David Singer continues in the Buttonwood Room at the Woodlands.
Menus for Thursday. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter is rotisserie chicken served with roasted Yukon Gold potatoes and cut corn. The dinner special is the Crystal Carving Board for $13.95, and the soup of the day is black bean. In the Island Cafe for lunch, the special is grilled ham and cheese panini with a side salad for $7.75. The dinner special is Thai night for $8.75. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
Welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm David Pavey. In 2011, Abdullah Kurdi and his family were bombed out of their home in Damascus, so they moved north, close to the Turkish border. In time, however, Abdullah managed to cross into Turkey, leaving his wife and 2 sons in Syria temporarily, hoping that he could find a way eventually for the 4 of them to join his sister in Canada. After 3 years in Turkey, Abdullah felt that his only option to move towards his goal of getting the family to Canada was to risk the rough 15-mile passage on the Mediterranean from Bodrum in southwest Turkey to the Greek island of Kos, because once in Europe, his chances of obtaining appropriate paperwork for Canada would be greatly enhanced. With his family, he made the long trip from Istanbul to Bodrum, found a smuggler, and paid him $2,000 to let his family join 8 others for the perilous journey in a 15-foot rubber dinghy. Leaving under cover of darkness, Abdullah, who was 40, with his wife, Rehan, 35, and 2 little boys, Galip, 5, and Alan, 3, set out for Greece. But they were only at sea for 4 minutes. I said 4 minutes. When the smuggler abandoned the vessel in rough water, leaving Abdullah to control the craft, which was quickly upended by a 5-foot wave. I swam to shore with the help of the city lights, but couldn't find my wife and children, he sobbed the next day. I went to the hospital and got the bad news. His wife and 2 boys were not there. Abdullah explained that the boat had started taking on water about 500 meters from the shore, and despite his best efforts, he wasn't able to hold on to his wife and 2 sons. "I was holding my wife's hand," he said, "but my children slipped through my hands, and it was dark, and everyone was screaming, and the waves were high, and the boat started swaying and shaking. We were terrified," he said. "I rushed to my kids and wife while the boat was flipping upside down, and in a second we were all drowning in the water." In the morning on September the 3rd, 2015, a Turkish official found the body of 3-year-old Alan Kurdi on the beach at Bodrum. He was lying face down in the sand. The palms of his hands were up. He was wearing black sneakers, blue shorts, and a red shirt. The sight was so heart-wrenching that many news outlets refused to show or print the photo. Instead, they showed the Turkish official wearing latex gloves, cradling a little baby in his arms, and looking away from the sad sight. The tide also washed up the bodies of Abdullah's wife, Rehan, and 5-year-old son, Galib. Abdullah, having survived, now had to cope with his sudden, overwhelming loss. He said he wanted one thing, and one thing only now, to sit by the graves of his wife and children. "My kids were the most beautiful children in the world, wonderful. They woke me up every morning to play with them, and now they're all gone," he said. Turkey helped him transport the 3 bodies back to Kobani in Syria, where they were quickly buried. But the plight of that little boy, washed up like a piece of debris on a Turkish beach, focused the world's attention on a wave of war-fueled migration, unmatched since World War II. Images of the boy's body and the photos of a broken-hearted husband and father sparked international outrage and highlighted the dangers faced by migrants who make the crossing. It also helped to impress upon the countries of the European Union that they needed to be more sympathetic to those fleeing war in the Middle East. The tragedy marked a breakthrough in the way many refugees were perceived in Europe. The gut-wrenching event focused attention on the city of Bodrum, which was relatively unknown beforehand. Indeed, it did more than that. It spurred a resourceful French reporter to take up on who was selling the rubber dinghies to the smugglers. The French TV station France 2 secretly filmed those selling dinghies in the city. Lo and behold, it turned out that one of them was none other than Madame Françoise Olquet, honorary consul of France, who owned a store in the city. The embarrassed French government promptly suspended her from office. So how did Madame Olquet justify what she had done? Well, she argued that the items would have been bought somewhere else if she hadn't sold them. She claimed that local Turkish authorities were also involved in the business. She said others would have taken her place if she stopped selling supplies. And finally, she told the reporter that it was wrong, but everybody was doing it. Now, think about that. It was wrong, but everybody was doing it. Let's think about that for a minute. Was it right or wrong to do what she did? Well, if it was wrong, as she claimed, why did she do it? Of what value was her argument that others were doing it? Wrong doesn't cease to be wrong because the majority share in it, and that was written by Tolstoy. St. Augustine put it this way: right is right even if no one is doing it, and wrong is wrong even if everyone is doing it. In contemporary culture, less informed these days by the Judeo-Christian religion, what is true may now be called false, because more than half the population believes it's false. Conversely, What is bad may now be considered good because most people believe it's good. And what is wrong may now be called right, and vice versa, if most people think so. That is what theologian Francis Schaeffer called the tyranny of the 51%. If most people are doing it, it must be all right, they think. But it isn't. In his letter to the church in Rome, the Apostle Paul had a warning for Christians. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside out. Readily recognize what God wants from you and quickly respond to it. Unlike the culture around you always dragging you down to its level of immaturity, God brings the best out of you, develops well-informed maturity in you. One translation renders the thought this way: don't let the world around you squeeze you into its mold. Madame Olkay's lame excuses are nothing more than that. Lame excuses. They lack moral clarity and integrity. She's the product of a basically secular, postmodern culture where everything is considered relative or a function of circumstances. Christianity is a revealed religion. The Bible is our guide to what is right or wrong. Well, check out the Ten Commandments for starters. Now, admittedly, not every ethical decision that we face has a biblical reference. In that case, we do well to follow the example of the Apostle Paul, who wrote, "We make it our goal to please God." Our grandson has a bracelet with WWJD inscribed on it. What would Jesus do? Of course, we don't always know what Jesus would do in a given situation, but this guide is more likely to direct us to doing what is right than the alternative. So, allow me to ask you, how do you determine what is right and what is wrong? Hopefully you make it your goal to please God. If you do what is right, you can't go wrong, right? And thank you for joining in to Village Church Connections.
And that's all we have time for in today's show. Be sure to join us again tomorrow when Mary Moore of the Legacy Foundation will talk to us about the importance of financial preparations for living life alone and being self-sufficient as possible. And we'll recap the top stories from this week. This has been Shell Point Today for Thursday, September 24th. I'm Dan Filgreen, and on behalf of the entire SPTV staff, we hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you again here tomorrow.